Look, they're on a list now that you don't want to be on.
Yeah.
There's a couple lists you don't want to be on. You don't want to be on the superstar who never won the title list. Barkley talks about that all the time. I remember he came on my podcast once in like 2011. It was like, I'm on a list. I don't want to be on this list. The list that gets brought up every time the new guy enters, and then they mention all the other guys. The 2022 Suns are on whatever short list you have for most shocking, disappointing exits we've had by a really good team in the playoffs. And just if you go since the merger, 22 Suns, I think the 16 Warriors have to be on there, even though they went 73-9, blowing the 3-1 lead in the finals. 2011 Heat, 07 Mavs, 94 Sonics, 81 Lakers, defending the title by losing a best 2 out of 3 of the Rockets. And then the 77 Sixers blowing a 2-0 to the Blazers and just completely falling apart and then almost coming back, but not really. That's the company they're in. And I think anytime going forward, people mention situations like this will be one of the first teams they mention. And that's just how this played out.
Yeah, there's no pushback. Like, I can't do it anymore. I mean, and that's kind of like where I'm going. I can't believe that Dallas is better than them. But I just, what was that? I mean, they were dead.
The weirdest thing was, how little fight they had, how dead the crowd was, because I think the crowd sensed it immediately. And Dallas was playing really well offensively and had the best guy in the game. And then Phoenix looked like they had never played basketball before. This was the most efficient, best oiled machine we had all season. I thought they were a lock to make the finals unless somebody got hurt. As far as we know, nobody got hurt. They just ran out of gas.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with the Paul thing because they seem to be hinting at it. I mean, he just didn't look the same, but I can't really sit here and make it an excuse. Booker was I don't know, why would Booker be terrible?
Well, they were basically just doubling him and throwing people at him every chance they got just to take him out and hope anyone else could beat them, and nobody could beat them. But Booker was also bad. Like, you think about what Tatum did the last 2 weeks. Booker and Tatum were kind of swimming in the same pool. I know Tatum's a better player, but I voted Booker 4th for MVP. We had to hear all the monologues from all the Suns fans and all the smart basketball people were like, whoa, people are sleeping on how good Devin Booker is. This was like the perfect game for him to show us how good he was. He went the opposite way.
I've always argued about Paul, and I've said he's like the ultimate winner that hasn't won. And when I watch those Pelican series, and you're like, this guy is absolutely taking these games over. You know what I mean? You felt like he was pacing himself. He's got the perfect game in there. The beginning of the Dallas series, I mean, this isn't that long ago, all right? The beginning of this series, you're like, this guy, there isn't a list of 10 people that are more important in the NBA. Like, he may not be a top 10 player anymore, but when he's right and he's taken over the game, it's just so obvious and it's so much fun. You and I did these segments. I think I did my own. I think I did one with you. We were like, do people realize how how special this profile, this Phoenix team looks like? Clutch game. They had it all, man. They had it all. And you're like, wait, what?
John Schumann, our friend who works for NBA.com, he said the Suns were the 24th team in the 26 years for which we have PVP data to rank in the top 5 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. And they were better than that because in any close game, it seems like they could come through. And yet in this game, there's a couple moments it was 30-22 or not 30-22. I don't know, 20.
You're right, though. I know
Mavs
exactly
were up by
what you're
10.
Right. Yeah.
And it seemed like they had a chance to break it open. I kept waiting for Chris to be like, oh, I'm going to step in earlier than I usually do because this is getting a little out of hand. Let me take control of this. And he just didn't. And it was like, is he hurt? What, is he asleep? What's going on? The whole Suns team seemed asleep.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's like 31-22 a couple minutes into the second quarter. You're like, okay, everybody makes their run. They're going to make a run. And then the run never happens. And then you can start asking all sorts of stuff like, well, if Chris is hurt, how do you build your team knowing that this is a problem, right? It'd be back-to-back years where he couldn't hold up. And that's why I thought the sneaky him breaking his hand was good for him because it gave him a month off.
Yeah.
And they didn't lose their seed or anything like that, so they'd be fine. And then the Ayton part of it, which is weird. And, whatever, Booker's still going to be great. But yeah, it's one of those games where you're like, this sticks on you forever. This is written in pen. It's not written in pencil. And you hope it pisses you off if you're the core of Phoenix going forward.
It's over. It's over.
This is it. That's it. The window's closed.
Here's why. That loss is so bad, you can't come back from it. You can't. And they have no move. The only move they have is to trade Ayton, which we'll talk about much later in the podcast. But the history of this is like, unless you have a peak guy in his prime, like the 2011 Heat, where they figured it out and they were able to come back from that because they had LeBron James, who was, in year 8 or year 9 at that point. And they had Wade, they had Bosh, and they were able to figure it out. The Suns don't have people like that. Booker isn't on the short list. He's a really good player. He's an all-star. He's a franchise guy, but he's not on that short list. And I just feel like, the 81 Lakers, they had won the year before. Total hiccup. Magic was hurt half the year. Best of 3. You could talk, all right, well, we got it, guy. And then you come back and you win the next year. The problem with Phoenix is the league is going to be really, really good next year. I mean, you could say there's 10 teams that have a chance to make the finals next year. If you're adding Denver and you're adding the Clippers and Brooklyn, assuming they're going to be some version of a good Brooklyn team on top of all the good teams we've had this year. And Phoenix is going to be one of the 10. They're not going to be, I don't know, in the West is going to be way better. And I just feel like their window was last year and this year. And we were saying that during the season. They came really close to winning the title last year. And then this year, the West was set up for them. We talked in part 1, neither of us even really liked this Golden State team that much. It's just a brutal loss.